So Derek's gonna take on call for the next 52 weeks because he's not gonna sleep anyways. He has a new one coming on Friday.
Use the money too.
Right, he has 2 children now, so you could use the money. All right, just a few things before we get started here. So we already went through our first snow episode with a lot of snow. Luckily, it came on a Saturday, so we had Sunday to clean up at most of our properties. I'm gonna thank you guys for being out there. I know Saturday was probably trying to like pull your hair out or chasing your tail because as soon as you cleared it, it was right back down and sticking. So I thank you for that. We did have a little fun that weekend with a property that we no longer manage, had a fire alarm that they were calling us about, and fire marshal was calling us, and we kept going, nope, not ours, not ours. So we were dealing with that in the middle of the snow as well. As far as that goes, a lot of you may have depleted a lot of supplies. If you need more ice melt or red signs, let me know by Friday, and I'll put a new order in, okay? I know a lot of red signs probably got damaged, stakes, whatever. So whatever you need, let me know, and I'll put a new order in.
There's signs over there, but there's no stakes, I don't think.
There's no stakes. And also remember to only take what you ordered. If you run out, ask me, because we only order enough for what you need, and the buildings pay for them, okay? So just let me know what you need by Friday. I'll put a new order in, and hopefully we'll get them in quickly. Hopefully there won't be another episode to deal with. Everybody, they didn't get to build their snowman, but they at least got to sled. So hopefully all the kids are happy and we can sail through the rest of winter. Any issues going on with all the rain that we've gotten? You know, make sure your roof drains are open, make sure there's no a lot of water sitting on the roofs, make sure leaks are addressed. If you have a stubborn one like Doug and I, it's probably leaking for the 6th time, so we're going to call them back out. Make sure your parking lot drains are flowing. So, you know, we're getting a little warmer in the days, but it does kind of get cold at night, so we've got a lot of standing water and stuff. Just make sure you're looking at that in the mornings, just to make sure there's no refreeze or anything like that. This week looks a little mild, but yesterday was absolutely gross. Any comments as far as weather goes? Questions on weather? As we're ramping back into the new year, time cards have been a little spotty the first couple of times. I'm seeing some overtime with no tickets, seeing mileage that doesn't add up. Reminder that you need to do them on Friday before you leave. This past night, I was in Maryland yesterday, so I had to do them Sunday night, and I was filling in some 8 hours of time for people because I knew you worked. But you could have had overtime and I didn't know about it. So, and I hate to put that on Debbie Ruffin when you're adding it on Monday morning because that's a lot of extra work when she's trying to process payroll for 370 people. So please make sure you're doing them Friday before you get off. If you have overtime on Saturday, please try to make sure you get it in on Saturday, especially the weeks that you know we're going to get paid, so I can, if I have to process them on Sunday, I have everything I need. Okay? Richmond Maintenance Building. Please do not page out on the Richmond Maintenance Building. Richmond Maintenance is a way for me to communicate with you all as technicians at one time, as far as coming in early on days that we have snow, putting out red signs, etc. We did figure out that some of my pages over the weekend were not coming out as far as getting you guys in early, so we think we have fixed that because you should have all gotten it during the snow the second time I paged it out. But make sure when you do a Richmond maintenance ticket, it blasts to all technicians. All right, you all should have a building services Danny Estridge facility set up, or a building services Paul Howard. So if you have to do something administrative like attending today's meeting, then you can put that ticket under that. If you do not have that, shoot me a quick email, text, and I'll get that set up for you, okay? But that's something we try to do when we set you up as new technicians. Just another reminder on red signs and ice melt. Do not close out one ticket for red signs for all of your properties. I did see this on some time cards where it said, put out red signs on the following properties. There has to be a ticket per property. I know that can be cumbersome if you have. Abdullah has at least 15 properties. I know that can be cumbersome. If you need help with that, call Carrie. Call the front desk and just say, hey, can you give me a red sign ticket for every single one of my properties? And she'll put them in for you, and then all you have to do is close them out.
And it works good because if you do it yourself, then it stands holding and working.
Yeah.
Whereas if she does it, you can still do
do service drivers.
So I still have a wish list item where I can click a button and it makes a ticket for all of the properties at one time, a separate ticket. We're just not there yet. But call Carrie if you need help with that. When I ask you to pick them up, you have to have a ticket individually for every property to pick them up for liability reasons. So if you need Carrie's help with that too, just call her. She'll help you. She does not mind at all.
The Richmond maintenance, we shouldn't clear those out either, should we?
Please don't clear the Richmond maintenance out. If you see a lot standing out there open, it's because of me. So just kind of send me a text going, hey, Richmond maintenance is killing me because I have to scroll through them, and I'll work on cleaning them out. So don't close Richmond maintenance, don't put a ticket in for Richmond maintenance. That is for me to communicate with all of you at one time. I also communicate a lot through email, so please make sure you're checking email. HR, IT, all of their communication is through email. So if you're not getting emails to your phone, maybe it's a password issue, make sure you call IT, but make sure that's up to date. Okay? Another thing on these maintenance meetings, unless you have a building emergency or a vendor meeting or something like that, these meetings are mandatory. Okay? So I know you might have better lunch plans than this sometimes, but try to be here at every training. Okay? Because this is a good crowd today, but the last couple ones we've had have been kind of thin. And I get if you're on PTO and stuff like that, but try to be here at all of them, okay? We've got some good stuff planned. Today we're going to talk about safety on the job and occupant safety, but I'm hoping next month we'll have Bill Ingersoll in with us to kind of tell us what he's looking for when he's doing inspections of buildings. And then maybe we can pick his brain and ask him some questions about fire safety, things we can be doing to be proactive about that as well, and kind of have an interactive training with him. So I'm working on that.
Back to the red signs, does that mean don't close it out at all until the end of the season, or until you pick them up?
So you should have a ticket for when you put them out.
Right.
And they should be closed. I put them out on January 3rd at 5 p.m. And then you should have a ticket that says, I picked them up on January 10th at 2 p.m.
Two separate tickets?
Two separate tickets.
Oh, because I just kept the one open and then re-added.
There should be two separate tickets for it. That's what the insurance company is looking for.
Even though you've got two separate
Even though,
comments.
yeah, it should be two separate tickets.
Okay.
And you have a lot of properties too. So if you want to call, I mean, Carrie doesn't mind. And she is very quick about it. She gets them in very quickly. Any other questions as far as, trying to think of stuff that might be coming in HR. Roll W-2s are on ADP. Will we be getting them in paper form as well?
Yes, you
Okay.
should be getting the paper form.
But if you need it quicker, they are on ADP and you can go out there and print them on. If you go to myself, and then I think it's under
Pay statement.
pay and then annual statements, it's right there.
And then taxes.
Huh?
And then taxes.
And then taxes?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're right out there.
So they're done now.
They're done now, they're on ADP if you need them now. They will be sending out paper forms, but if you need them now, you can go and print them.
Is it 1095s gonna be on there as well?
I saw the 1095s for 2015.
Yeah, I don't know. They're not out there yet, that I know.
Okay.
I know that I got the one in the mail from Cigna.
I got Cigna, but I haven't got that.
So I got, yeah.
Yeah,
I
well,
don't know.
technically we have to the 31st to get them out, so they'll probably continue coming in
I
after.
haven't got either.
Yeah.
They gotta be out by the 30th.
What else might be coming? So speaking of that, open enrollment will probably start in April. And then we'll make decisions as far as new benefits and stuff goes. So start thinking about that if you're happy with your plans or whatnot, so you can think about if you need to make a change come April. And that was with a May 1st effective date.
That's pretty much it. We
Yeah,
covered it all.
HR stuff. Anything from you guys? What? Oh, so new shoes. So you'll be eligible for new boots this year. So I will send out, we have the Safeguard website that you can go on. You can, if you really liked them, you can go in, that was the truck that came through. You can order the same ones. Or you can look on their catalog and order something different. We'll pay up to $150. If you got a pair in 2016, it is every 2 years per person. So if you were new in 2016 and got a pair, then you would wait to 2018. But those of us who went through the 2015 route, you're due this year, then you would go ahead and get them. And I'll send that link out to everybody via email. You can also choose to go to Red Wing or wherever you want to go and just hand me a receipt and we'll reimburse up to $150. Okay. As far as safety supplies, Raise your hand if you're in need of new goggles, gloves, back brace. They're kind of worn, scratched up. Please don't tell me they're brand new because you've never used them. Anybody? Everybody's is good?
I don't have any.
You don't have any? Need some gloves? All right, I'm going to do an order
Gloves.
and get some new stuff in.
Come on out.
Okay, so you should have gotten them when you started, so I'll get those for you. So I'll do a new order and get those in for you guys.
Size fit most.
It's expensive,
Get some
folks.
large gloves.
Large gloves.
Actually,
I got big hands, but.
Get extra large.
Yeah. If it doesn't fit, you must quit.
All right, so medium and large, is that what I'm hearing? Medium and large gloves, okay. And we'll get some goggles that go over glasses.
Extra large.
You're still good for your pants every year. It does follow you on a calendar year, so if you got them in September, you can't go get them now. So we will reimburse you up to $100 every year for your pants. All you have to do is get me the receipt and we'll get you reimbursed. Another thing that I don't know that a lot of you are actually doing that we provide, now, I found out recently that this is a Richmond thing, so when you're talking to your Norfolk and Raleigh and other people, don't mention this, but we do offer you dry cleaning services on your shirts, and we will pay for that. All you have to do is drop them off every Wednesday here in our storage area in a black bag with your name on it, and then the next Wednesday, they come back all pretty, pressed, and clean.
Yeah, definitely don't tell Norfolk that.
Don't tell Norfolk, huh?
I turn him in before Wednesday, picks him up at like 7 o'clock.
Okay, so turn him in on Tuesday, and then he's usually here that Wednesday morning around 7. So if you would like to have your shirts dry cleaned, a lot of you wear the button-ups that, you know, need ironing and all that good stuff. I've noticed only about 5 of you or so do that, so you are more than welcome to do that if you would like to.
If they're downtown, he comes by one monument too.
Okay, so if you needed to drop them off at one monument, you could do that as well. Okay? Does he come to one monument on Wednesday as well?
Yep.
Okay.
He leaves here and goes straight down here.
Okay. Any other questions? Maintenance items, housekeeping items?
I got a quick question. You showed us laptops a while back.
I did. Can you guys talk
I
about
buy one because I found
Don't
it
buy
a whole lot easier for me to get my property management people. to
Don't
do
buy
something Email.
Don't buy one.
Okay.
I sent an email off to the head of IT and Todd yesterday asking where we stand. And I will send an email every single day until
I
it
know the ones
happens.
of us that travel a lot, it's so much
So,
easier to deal
yeah,
with.
don't buy them. I promise they're coming.
Okay.
If I have to like chain myself to the cube until they're bought, you know, he can't get out, we will have the laptops. Because we are rolling out Yardi Marketplace soon. We have some people in testing right now, although I'm not sure it's being tested, so I'll find that out this week. But you're gonna need the laptops in order to do Yardi Marketplace. And that's where you're gonna go online and order your supplies, and have choices of 200 plus vendors to look for supplies, and all of our local vendors will be on there as well.
Was that sent out to selected people or?
It was, we just kind of picked 2 buildings per region at the moment. One that we do accounting on and one that we don't do accounting on, and then it's gonna roll out to everybody. So if you haven't got anything on it yet, don't worry.
And what was that called again?
Those of you that have, if you could try to look at it before we meet on Thursday, that would be awesome. Yeah, it's called Yardi Marketplace. So I don't know if you remember, CB Corporate used to have something called Site Stuff. Some of you that have been with us for a while. So Yardi Marketplace bought out Site Stuff, and they work with thousands of vendors across the country. It is going to be a little bit of a change where you'll be more proactive with your ordering than reactive. We have ways to be reactive, but the whole idea is that you would put in an order up to a certain limit. You're fine. You can order, you know, maybe you want to have 5 flush valves on hand, so you order those. If it goes over a certain limit, your property manager has to approve it. And that way, any issues with fraud or anything like that are negated, in attempts to negate that issues. You will still,
Through our same vendors that we normally.
through our same vendor, so we're working to get like, Ferguson's already on there, we're working to get Reynolds on there, Mayer on there, all of that. So you'll be working to the same vendors. And the idea is you order it right there, and you just go and pick it up, and they have it ready for you. Same with Home Depot. You would put in your order, instead of you walking all the aisles looking for what you need, Home Depot will package it all up and have it ready for you within an hour, and they'll email you and say, hey, it's ready, and you just go pick it up.
Yeah, good luck with that.
That's the idea. So.
With Home Depot, I know that they don't do.
So we, I mean, and just to tell you why this happened, we did have a fraudulent claim when we sent an email out to you guys, you're having to text me every time you order something, trying to get away from that. That cost the company around $100,000
Yeah.
over the years. So we don't have a choice. We are going to Marketplace. So you will, your Home Depot and Lowe's cards, as you know them now, will go away. And then we will move forward to it. There, you will have, if it's an emergency and you have to get something, we are still gonna have means for you to be able to do that, but it will be a more proactive system.
Like on
Go ahead and
call.
talk, but that's not working.
It's just gonna have to, it has to. I don't have a choice. This is coming straight from Scott
I go
Adams.
2 and 3 times.
This is coming straight from Scott Adams. I don't have a choice.
Okay.
What about like a Saturday or Sunday when you're on call? Something gotta
You
do.
will have ways to purchase things, but we don't want that to be the norm anymore.
Right, I know.
Right, yeah, you still have that, you still have ways to buy emergency parts and stuff like that, but the norm would be ordering it online and just ordering extra so you have stuff on stock.
So we're gonna have to wait for our property manager to approve it?
Only if it's
before we
over a
can get it?
certain limit. Only if it's over a certain limit.
What's the limit going?
I believe the limit, if it's over $500,
That's the way it's always been.
it has to go to the property manager. And then anything over $2,000, Todd has to approve. But that's, and y'all rarely buy stuff over $2,000.
So if we come across something we're trying to figure out how to fix, we don't really know what to do with it, we go to Lowe's and look around for, just to get an idea what to do, how we gonna do that?
You'll have a way to do those things, but the majority of it will be online shopping. So don't get nervous. You're gonna get trained on it. You're still gonna have a card to go to Home Depot. Lowe's will be out of the picture, but you'll have a card to go to Home Depot. But that's just not gonna be the norm anymore. It'll be a different card that's tied to Yardi Marketplace. One of another great things about the system is the fact that when you give me a receipt, we have to process it, make sure it's to the right building. We then pay that receipt. We upfront all of those monies, all of the accounts we have, we upfront all of that money, and then we bill back the property in hope to get paid. The way this system will go is when you put that order in, it's approved, it's processed, an invoice goes directly to the property, and CB is no longer upfronting that money.
I got a question for that. Like North Run, I have some tenants that are triple net, some that are full lease, that we take care of full. If I go out to buy bulbs for the tenants that we take care of all the time, how do you know?
You would notate that just like you do on an invoice now. You would, in the PO, you would say North Run, tenant,
Okay.
ABC.
But I mean, let's say I buy a bunch of TA bulb boxes, cases of bulbs, because the other ways we use those in Dallas. How do y'all determine?
You would just let Chris know.
Okay.
Just like you determine it now.
Okay.
It'd be no different than that.
Well, right now, I don't really assign bulbs specifically to one tenant. I just do it to North Run.
Well then, however you would do it now would change.
Okay.
Wouldn't change unless Chris says that y'all need to start billing the tenant back.
How about data? Data will be an issue.
Data? No. As far as using your laptops and stuff, no. They were gonna let us open up all your phones to be hotspots, and so you'll have wireless wherever you go. Okay, but don't get too nervous about this yet. We're still in testing mode. So just want to let you know that is coming down the pipe. All right, so safety on the job, everyday occupant safety. So we know that there are standards out there. For us, as we as employers employing you, there are standards that you know certain things. There are standards that our tenants know certain things. There are standards that our owners are required to let our tenants know about certain things. So we're going to talk to you about that today. We're going to be talking about hazardous communications, asbestos, lead, indoor air quality or IAQ, fire protection, electrical safety, and emergency power. Okay? Why? Well, we want to learn the basics of HAZCOM. We want to identify asbestos issues and notification requirements per OSHA. Same with lead, identify those issues and what's required. Understand the impact indoor air quality has on our tenants, you as being in the building, our workers. Identify and describe precautions to use to prevent fires. Understand basics of electrical safety and develop a basic understanding of emergency power. So hazardous communications. So y'all are in contact with all kinds of materials all the time that are considered hazardous. Paints, chemicals for HVAC systems and whatnot, cleaning solutions. OSHA estimates that more than 32 million workers are exposed to 650,000 hazardous chemical products. That's a lot of chemical products to be exposed to. And they're considered hazardous if they pose a physical or health hazard. So what is that? It's a health hazard if it can cause an illness, headaches, difficulty breathing, dizziness. It's a physical hazard if it can blow up, if it can ignite, if it can combust, anything like that. Explosives, compressed gases, and unstable chemicals. So what are OSHA standards? OSHA has issued HAZCOM requirements that all employers identify substances, have them labeled, and trained all employees on the proper storage, usage, and handling, okay? And then facility owners, managers, nobody is negated from this. Nobody's out of the realm of these requirements. They are all required to make sure people know what they're working with, okay? So that's why we require our janitorial companies to have their MSDS sheets updated. That's why we require contractors. We make them, whatever they bring to the property, they need to take back off the property and they need to take care of it. You have a question?
No, sorry.
So our responsibilities, there should be a written hazard communications program. You should identify and evaluate your chemical hazards in the workplace, prepare a hazardous substance inventory, and hopefully you don't have that many on site, but these are things that vendors are bringing into our properties. Provide chemical hazard info through labels in your MSDS sheets. Make sure that all employees can readily access your MSDS sheets. So make sure, kind of if you're in a janitorial closet or something, make sure theirs are up and fully labeled. We should have initial and refresher training. Inform contractors that they must implement their HAZCOM programs. And a lot of this is done through project management. When they're setting it up, they're making sure that they have all these programs in place. But the contractors coming on are your managers during our contracts. And our contracts do put that liability onto the vendor. They need to make sure they're taking care of their hazardous communications. They need to make sure their chemicals are taken with them and not left for us to store, etc. And then contractors must relay info to owners, managers, and tenants who may come in contact with the material. So, simply stated, you have a right to know what you're being exposed to at work. The tenants have a right to know what they are being exposed to when it's associated with chemicals being used in the building. Trust me, if they smell it, think it, or whatever, you're going to hear about it very quickly. And they do have a right to know what's being done in the building. That's why a lot of your build-outs and whatnot are done on the weekends or in the evenings when tenants are not there. Owners will try to do them during the day when tenants are there because it's going to save cost, but that is really not ideal because you're going to get a lot of complaints about smells and whatnot in the buildings. And then contractors must be informed of hazardous materials that may harm their employees, including those used by a tenant. So how do you identify them? Is any airborne dust, smoke, vapor, or mist generated when a substance is used? Are there any unusual odors from liquids, vapors, or gases? Do you have an unusual taste in your mouth? I found that one strange. So if you have that, let us know. Do symptoms disappear or get better when an employee is away from work? I personally was sneezing really bad at the office last Friday and was trying to convince Todd I was allergic to work. He wasn't buying it. And then our hazardous operations normally performed when you're not around. So making sure you know what vendors are coming in, you know what contractors are coming in. I know sometimes you guys don't feel as well informed when there's a project going on in your property because the project managers weren't working with the property manager, but make sure you're asking questions. Hey, what are they going to be doing this weekend? Anything I need to be aware of when I walk back in here Monday morning. Any questions on hazardous communications? Labeling? No, like bottles unlabeled. Okay. Asbestos issues. How many of you have asbestos in your buildings that you're aware of? Okay. Is it properly labeled?
Yes.
Okay. We have a lot in Charlottesville. In fact, there's one, the Bank of America building on the mall in Charlottesville, and there are literally plaques on the building letting people know that there's asbestos in the building and what areas. So I was like, oh, what's this? This is cool. Oh, okay, there's asbestos here. So during the 1970s, most of you know that asbestos was used in practically everything. Over 3,000 products, asbestos was used. And it has a health impact because when you inhale asbestos, it's needle-like sharp little objects, and they cut up your lungs and whatnot. It's commonly found in thermal system insulation, surface materials, sprayed or applied acoustical, decorative, fireproofing, and then I love just miscellaneous materials such as ceiling tiles, floor tiles, roofing felt, exterior siding, fabrics, and sheetrock drywall. I'll never forget when my husband and I moved into my first house. There was this ugly, ugly black tile in our basement, probably like 6 by 6. It was kind of small. So we were just down there cracking that stuff up with shovels. I did not want it in there. We were getting rid of it. My dad walks in and goes, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "This is hideous. I just want this out of here." And he was like, in fact, at this point, we're practically done. You know, we've got it all in our regular, dumpster we're going to take to the street. He's like, that is asbestos tile, and I'm sure that is full of asbestos. You're not supposed to throw it away like that and all that kind of stuff. But we had no idea. We were just, redoing our house. So just be aware. We were not aware. Make sure you know what's going on in your building. If you have an older building, ask the questions. Which building do you have it in?
It's a 2810.
2810.
Insulation on some of the pipes and more of this
So,
asbestos and coated it.
One of the good thing about asbestos is if it's not touched, if it's not disturbed, you're okay. So you probably have it in a place that people rarely go or walk around.
And they've also put some kind of coating on it, so
Mhm,
you can't really.
So that's good. It's when if they were ever having to go in and actually work on that piping or whatever and pull that insulation out, when you disturb it, that's when you're going to have the problem. So as long as it's not disturbed, you're fine. But when it's disturbed, it can be inhaled. I don't know if any of you have ever been a part of an asbestos abatement. Has anybody in here? Yours, when they suit it up?
Yeah, we used to build scaffold for, like power plants. I was on crew to rent scaffold building thing, and we'd set it up for the guys, the abatement crew. Plastic bag, everything, and sucked up with the vacuum.
There were these, practically full hazmat suits and things, yeah.
As a private contractor, I didn't do it, but I'd have to hire a company to come in if I was working on a house that had asbestos in it. They'd have to suit up and have all their air equipment and isolate the rest of the house.
They had asbestos in the, in F&B sub-basement.
Oh, in the first National Bank building?
Yeah, they had to rig like, what looked like a clean room, chemical warfare.
It's a serious, expensive project. And if you ever get the chance, if you hear one being done, just go observe it. If you've ever seen a mold remediation, this is mold remediation, on crack. Because they are all suited up and everything.
Pretty much anything built prior to 1973 has a possibility of this.
Of having it.
I think it's after 77, I don't think you have any problems.
Because the problem is too, it can take years for your symptoms to start. So they didn't really realize it was causing an issue until years later. And my grandmother actually got mesothelioma, the cancer from it. And so we were thinking back to, well, when would she have been exposed? And the only thing they really could bring it to was my grandfather worked with it, and probably when he brought it home on his clothing, then that's when she would have done the laundry and stuff, she would inhale it then. So it's pretty serious stuff. So asbestos can be released in following ways. Contractors can unknowingly disturb it. You could have Jessica and Brandon in their basement and just checking up the little black tiles. Maintenance activities, renovation or demolition, and then tenant damage. If you know they're present in the building, OSHA requires you to inform the employees. So like Victor said, it's posted so people can see that it's in the building. So they must be informed in writing, employees who work in the building, maintenance and custodial staff, outside contractors, and tenants occupying the same. And penalties could be $7,000 per fine. So you must, if you know there's an asbestos issue in your property, you are thinking about that, then talk to your property manager and make sure that it's fully vetted to everybody. Any questions about asbestos? Luckily, it's going away. As your newer buildings, they're not using it anymore.
Still in drywall.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know. You would think it would.
You would think it wouldn't be,
Yeah.
but it is.
Lead issues. Every time I think about lead, I think about obviously lead paint. And I think about this commercial that used to come on when I was a kid, and it was like these kids like gnawing on the windowsills, and you know they're gonna get lead poisoning. And then I had kids and realized they do like chew on everything. But your principal concern with lead is neurological impairment in children, and then the cardiovascular impact in adults. Okay, common sources are paint. Anybody that's bought or sold a house in the last however many years, you're gonna always sign that lead paint disclaimer, right? Water supply and plumbing, and then can cause contaminated dust, soil, water, as well for potential exposure during maintenance operations. Okay, so ways to reduce lead: identify and mitigate the source is the most important aspect. Remove and reassign workers during removal operations so nobody is exposed for a long period of time. We did have a property in Charlottesville where they had lead paint on the building, it was peeling off, and so they had to do the whole tarping the whole building and get it all down, and they would rotate workers in and out of that so they weren't exposed for that long of time. And then increase awareness through education and training. OSHA requirements about lead. Owner and manager are required to provide employee information, signs, record keeping, and monitoring the process of lead. You're required to ensure that no employee is exposed to lead in excess of the permissible exposure limit. That is 30 micrograms per cubic meter of air averaged over an 8-hour period. I don't know how you measure that, and I don't know the calculus that went into that, but you're not supposed to be exposed to it longer than that. An owner and manager must establish a housekeeping program sufficient to maintain all surfaces free of lead dust accumulations. So if you've got some lead piping, you are doing work on that kind of stuff, just be aware to not have an extended exposure, especially if it's over 30 micrograms per cubic meter. Any questions about lead? I think the next one is the hardest one, indoor air quality. Because I think in this day and age, we have people that don't want to work. So it's very hard if someone says that they have a headache and they feel dizzy to quantify that, right? Because we don't know how they're feeling. And they're telling us the building's causing it. So indoor air quality, I think, is very hard, but it can be, luckily, if there is an actual problem, very easy to take care of. A lot of indoor air quality complaints are drowsiness, depression, allergic reactions. Those are your symptoms, your most common complaints: sinus congestion, sneezing, coughing, dry throat, headache, dizziness, shortness of breath, fatigue, eye, nose, and skin irritation. I was in a building yesterday up in Chantilly where we've had an airflow problem that we've now fixed. And the employees in that area, we went to one area and there was just vacant. And I looked over at the contact and I said, Jennifer, what's going on here? And she said, oh, well, the airflow's better, blah, blah, blah. But the employees are now saying that the desk are giving them headaches and they want us to take all these desks out and replace them. That the smells or whatever was in the air are now trapped in the cube furniture, so they're refusing to work in this area until we figure it out. It's a very hard thing. What do you do in that situation? So that's a tenant issue that they're dealing with, not mine, so luckily. But complaints can be logged with OSHA. We don't want it to get there. It can be logged with OSHA. That's going to bring in an OSHA audit, possible fines. If a worker's productivity is down and a manager comes to us and says, I can't get any work out of my employees because they're saying that they can't breathe, they're dizzy, they're sick all the time when they come to work, so we have to figure this out. It makes sense to have good IAQ, the best we can. You keep your tenants longer, etc. So sources of indoor air quality concerns are your HVAC systems, and which we know that can be easily adjusted with just a minor adjustment of airflow in and out of the building. Building materials such as the desk and cubes that they're complaining about, outdoor sources, building activities, and special use areas. So like I said, HVAC, it brings outdoor air into the building, right? Filters and distributes outdoor and recirculated air, controls the temperature, humidity levels, provides ventilation, handles other factors such as noise and vibration. So another building we have who said they had poor IAQ and they wanted us to adjust it, so we made some adjustments. They did not agree that our adjustments were good, and one day we started getting all these door prop calls just over and over again. So sent the technician out to the building to see what was going on. And they didn't think they had good enough airflow, so they had propped all exterior doors open to the building. They had bought the big box fans, and they were blowing air from outside into the building. This is after we've had 2 reports done from specialists saying that their indoor air quality was perfect, beautiful reports. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if you didn't have an indoor air quality before, you sure have one now. Because you're bringing all this filtered air into the building. All it would take is a big old diesel truck to drive by the right by a main highway and then rush all that in, and then we would have had fun with that. Down in Raleigh, they had a contractor bust into a gas pipe. They said it took about 20 minutes for that entire building to smell like gas. Luckily, they were able to get the tenants out very quickly and able to get the smell out. But it doesn't take long. If there's a smell, it doesn't take long for it to get through the system and go through the entire building. So HVAC is really important in this because you can make some adjustments on the HVAC to make it better. You can up the airflow like we did in the one building. I don't recommend doing the box fans at the front doors. But just a minor change on your HVAC system can take care of the problem. Building materials, shelves, chairs, desks, cubes, carpet. This is why we try to lay carpet and do things at night because the glue gives off smells. And if you try to do any kind of building activity during the day, you're going to hear about a few pregnant women in the office that can't do the smell, so they can't work. So now their managers are mad because their productivity is down. So all of these things give off smells and release formaldehyde gases, which is lovely, as well as other compounds. Outdoor sources. You can bring in odor, pollen, dust, fungal spores, asbestos, vehicle exhaust. You have soil gases, radon, petroleum, chemicals that can be introduced into the building. And then standing water, if you have a lot of standing water, it's been really moist. We've had a lot of rain. We've had some complaints, especially up in Charlottesville, just feeling like the building smelled musty and stuff like that, just because it's been so moist. Building activities, if you have any nail and hair styling salons, you know that they give off smells. Blueprinting, food preparation, pest control, loading docks, all of these things have smells that can affect your indoor air quality. And then special uses, labs, print shops, maintenance shops, your boiler and chiller rooms, arts and crafts shops, exercise areas, pools and spas, food prep and smoking lounges also all give off smells and other things that can affect your IAQ. Any questions on indoor air quality? Funny stories?
Floor drains.
Floor drains, oh, they can be lovely when they get dry. So hopefully you all have a PM ticket to take care of your floor drains and check those because they can be lovely.
Yeah, pour vegetable oil in it.
Vegetable oil?
Because it doesn't evaporate. And it'll still wash through if you had water on there.
How many of you have the Zerns that we bought years ago in your floor drains? Do you used to have a lot of problems with your floor drains?
Yeah, I did used to, but I don't.
You don't anymore. So it was a thing, and Paul, did we put some of those in Village Bank? Yeah. So, huh?
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere. So you look into it with your managers, and Jeff and Paul have them. There are these floor drains that don't allow, they let fluid in, but they don't allow the vapors back up. And they're called Zerns, Z-U-R-N-S.
And easy to install.
And they're really, they're easy to install. If you find them and want them, tell me, and I'll order them. You just have to tell me the diameter of your drain. Yeah, tell me the diameter of your drain, I'll get them ordered.
Where I had a problem was they put brand new showers, but they weren't using the showers. So it was
They just
dry.
kept saying dry.
So it was different non-usage.
Well, try, if you want to try one of these.
Well, I just they got odor control now, you can buy
Okay.
it well, that you can pour down in there. But yeah, a lot of times just running water down through it.
Yeah, it's get dry. They get dry and then they let all that sewer gas come up. Danny says she doesn't know anything about sewer smells. It's horrible.
Yeah, I get it tenfold. You should have been in Tyler building the other day.
Danny had a backup in the Tyler building, which caused every toilet and sink on the first floor.
Everything
Volcano.
on the first floor and every floor drain in dialysis was pumping water out like this high.
Not fresh water. Not fresh water.
Paul knows. I called him because I needed help.
And I appreciate that.
How about it? Yeah. what that is, the
Um,
flow unit that washes out the dialysis pumps, that's 250 gallons.
Yeah.
It cut on and starts dumping all this water, and then it's really, oh, it was crazy coming out everywhere.
And Chris Crouch was like, this is just not a good day. He just kept saying that over and over again.
Yeah, I texted him, I said, you need to call me. He said, I'm in a meeting. I texted him back, said, I don't care.
You need to calm down. Fire protection. So there are two types of protection systems. You have passive and active, okay? Passive are gonna be your walls, ceilings, floors, your fire-rated walls. Most of these, you know, a wall with a 1 hour fire resistance rating is built as a barrier. So that's gonna be passive. Your active fire protection systems are gonna be your sprinkler, smoke systems, all that kind of stuff, okay? I think the most interesting fire protection system I have ever seen was at Monticello. When Marty showed us that system, and the fact that you have this historic building that you cannot dump a bunch of water in if there's a fire. So they had a very sophisticated system there that was absolutely fascinating to see.
High fog.
I mean,
It's a
just
mist.
the room with the machinery was impressive.
we
It
have
was
Because
awesome.
sprinklers are designed to allow people to get out of the building, they're not allowed to, they're not designed to save the building. The high fog system is designed to save the building and lives. You can put a glass on the coffee table and set off a sprinkler system, and it will fill that glass, and it'll also flood the next 3 floors or 4 floors underneath you. You have a high fog system, which is a mist system. It cools the top of the room where your gases are. It also chokes out, you know, those gases. It also puts a mist out into the air, which chokes the fire out. And if you were to look at that, the same kind of a glass, you'd have less than an inch of water in it. And it would only affect the room as far as cleanup. It wouldn't affect the rest of the building. So if you have a high-rise hotel or anything like that,
Lot
the
of
high fog
services
system
have
is the best way to go.
That's great.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, this is in advance of the halon, because the halon, the gases, this is a better system, you know?
I'm sure it's a very expensive system.
Yeah, and the one in Monticello is totally self-sufficient, it's all gas operated, so even if the electricity goes out, it still is operable. The water that they use is water that's purified to 50,000 microns, which is about 8 or 9 times purer than any drinkable water that you get.
Why do they do that?
Because it has to go through these, it has to be put into a mist. I mean, it's literally a fog that comes out of those nozzles. And it's just, look it up on the internet.
It's fascinating. It's really fascinating. So those are your active systems. Fire prevention codes require proper maintenance and testing of fire protection systems, right? Your vendors are coming out and doing this. And then we're running the fire pumps and everything like that to make sure they're working appropriately. Precautions, many building fires can be prevented through good housekeeping. All employees, tenants, all of that can make significant contributions by keeping areas clear and free of trash, keeping your stairs clear, keeping exit lights and clear of obstructions, and storing hazardous substances only in designated locations and in properly rated and labeled containers. Who here has paint in their electrical rooms?
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
So, I mean, you gotta think about these things. If something's flammable, think about where you're storing it. And making sure how far, if you are storing anything, how much clearance should you have from the panel?
3 feet.
3 feet, okay? So making sure, because they'll get you on that, okay? So making sure you have that to your panel. Fire prevention technician awareness. Look for frayed electrical cords and faulty appliances. Use proper use of electrical equipment. We don't want any space heaters in our buildings. I always laugh when our employees have space heaters, and I'm like, Todd, we tell our tenants they can't have space heaters, and like those 4 people all have them.
How do we control the tenants?
Control the tenants, you need to get with your manager.
But
If
also,
you've asked nicely,
Because a lot of times, we don't, like I said, if we get triple net leases, we don't do a walkthrough.
well, if you don't do a walkthrough, that's different. But if you see it, you should tell them nicely that we shouldn't have it, and then escalate it up.
it is my understanding that if a tenant or somebody in an office has a space heater, that they are personally responsible and liable, and Any fines that are levied will be directly against them and not the business.
The only problem is though, is you don't, I mean, I've been with the fire marshal before where he's told them
Yeah,
that I'm gonna fine you if I come back and it's here,
yeah.
but they never get fined.
So that's
I've
where
never
we
seen anybody ever get
make sure
fined.
we're doing our documentation, documented service record, that you noted this and you told the tenant, you told the manager, and then we'll make, the manager should have documentation that they've talked to that manager as well. Take the liability off of us. But yeah, that's a good point, Marty, but that's on them.
But it also brings up the reason why they have the space heaters, because the building is not doing the job that they want it to do.
Or some people are just really cold all the time.
Well,
And the next person beside them is hot. I mean, it's just
When I was on
hard.
the Forest Office Park property, I don't know if Danny was with me or not, but there was a cubicle with a vent right above the cubicle. And the lady in that cubicle was freezing, the one over here was burning up.
And they won't argue over it.
Just switch
Yes.
them. You
I've
sit
had
here, you
that
sit here.
before where it's one's before menopause and one's after.
The only thing to say is
That has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, well,
I've had that several times over the years.
well, the manager,
Go there.
the manager saw the dilemma I was in, which was a female, and she came over and said, "Oh, Millwood, you're just having a personal summer."
I had one of them by a window and I'm like, when it's winter time, you know you're gonna freeze beside that window.
I've had the two employees, cubicles right beside each other, argue with each other because one's hot, one's cold.
Switch. Make it
Yeah, I've had people do
Can you just
that.
move?
But they're like, I'm not giving up my window seat. Okay, we'll be cold then. You know.
Well, anyway, that's a dilemma you run into
Yes.
with the space
Yeah.
heaters, is it kind of a touchy situation, how do you do it? Because then they want to say the building's inadequate, and then you've got to spend the money to say we're doing the best we can.
My favorite is when they have the space heater and they throw a breaker and then they hide it before you get there and they're like, oh, there wasn't I don't know what to it, and they plug it back in and it throws the breaker again
You
and
call them out on it, and say, oh, I wasn't using it, but
it's still warm. It's battery operated. It's bad.